I'm Casey Kasem. Now, on November 18th, an estimated 8 million students from coast to coast were ordered by their teachers to watch an educational show on in-class TV. Their assignment was to learn about the most successful band of the rock era. That's right, they weren't watching a documentary on the American Revolution, the Civil War, or the drafting of the American Constitution. Instead, the in-class educational station called Channel One broadcast a documentary on the making of a 30-year-old album, and they broadcast it to 12,000 middle schools and high schools across America. The documentary is called The Making of Sgt Pepper, and its maker, Capitol Records, claims it's the first time that any rock act has been singled out for the school curriculum on a national level. Why was a documentary on the making of the Beatles' Sgt Pepper album chosen? Well, the makers say their objective was to help a new generation of students understand the process involved in recording an album. And at the same time, they wanted to let this new generation know how important the Beatles were to not just the music, but the cultural life of the 1960s, a turbulent era in American history. That's our report on the recent day when an estimated 8 million students studied the music of the Beatles, all at the same time. Now, on with the countdown.
Casey's Top 40.
Now, this month marks the 25th anniversary of an historic event when the Beatles released what's been called the most important album in rock history. It happened back in June 1967. At the time, the Fab Four had reached a creative crossroads. They'd grown far beyond their early rock and R&B roots. In fact, John, Paul, George, and Ringo had started to integrate classical and Indian music into their albums. They added violins, trumpets, orchestral backgrounds, and the ancient Indian instrument called the sitar. Along with their producer George Martin, they had also become masters of the studio, using special electronic techniques no band had used before. When it came time to do a new album, John Lennon and Paul McCartney decided it was time to try out an idea that had been brewing in the back of their minds. Up to that time, albums were just collections of hits, songs which didn't have much to do with each other. John and Paul wanted to create something new, a concept album with a consistent theme. And they spent an unprecedented 700 hours in the studio putting that album together at a cost of $75,000, an unheard of amount of money at that time. As they had planned, they built the album around a single concept. The songs were based on the life of an imaginary band, and the Beatles wanted to call the album Dr. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. But then they got a call from one of their lawyers, informing them that the American soft drink company that made Dr. Pepper had heard about the proposed name for the album. They didn't like it at all. So the Beatles changed the name of their album from Dr. Pepper to Sgt. Pepper. The day that masterpiece was released in June of 1967 was a landmark in music history. The album was revolutionary on every level, from its concept to its production to its stimulating cover. And it all happened 25 years ago this month. That's a page from our Top 40 scrapbook. Now, on with the countdown.
Number 30.